Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video, I wanted to discuss very briefly the concept of self-love. I feel like this concept has been sort of talked about a lot ad nauseum, and people always say that oh, you need to uh, you need to love yourself. You need to love yourself, man, before getting into a relationship. You need to love yourself. And for the longest time, I had no idea what the fuck that meant. What do you mean love yourself? Like sure there's some elements that I love about myself. Sure, but I wouldn't say that I love myself, That's kind of like the rationale. That's kind of like the thought pattern that I always had. It's like I always assumed that it was some sort of wishy-washy voodoo bullshit about self-love and self-actualization, man, and all that shit. But I've kind of recently, especially with what happened, I I came to a very different conclusion and realization about what self-love actually is and why it's such an important thing. So first off, we got to clarify what self-love even is. Self-love isn't like this this thing that people seem to attribute of like empowerment of like, oh, I'll there's this movement that's like free the nipple, I think, where it's like, oh, where it's like a whole bunch of women just like go out completely topless without a bra, and it's all about like sexual empowerment and self-love and self-expression and all of that, and rise above the patriarchy that forces us to wear bras and shit, and you know a- people seem to think that that is like the blueprint of like being confident in your own skin and whatever, and like them maybe the truth, maybe they are confident, maybe they're mentally ill, you know I don't want to pass any judgment on them, but at least in my personal opinion, that isn't what self-love is. Self-love isn't something that you proclaim, to the rest of the world, like, oh, I love myself. Like it's nothing like that. You can love yourself in silence. You know um and self-love isn't this thing where it's like, oh, I'm so attractive and I make so much money and I'm so smart and I'm this and I'm that and I have a nice apartment and I have a huge dick and I have a huge ass, and all these like super external things that like that you think is like, oh, I'm so accepting of myself and all of these things that I possess and all of these things that I have, that you know like in reality that's just like a cry for help. That's just like a cry for like, please love me, somebody, please love me. I have all these things. I have huge tits, please love me, you know that's what it's giving. That's what it's like screaming out. So self-love isn't a proclamation to the rest of the world about how much you loved yourself, and it isn't about the external things that you have, that or the things on your body that you have. Sure, you may appreciate those things, but those things are, I would say, fleeting, and I wouldn't say they're like a mark of like what self-love actually is. Um, Now, from my definition of what self love is, and everyone may have different definitions. Like I'm just a guy giving his opinion on the internet. Like nothing is factual. Nothing is concrete. You know. Um, but to me, what self love really is all about is respecting yourself. That's like that's like one of the key proponents is like respecting yourself to not get involved with people or in situations that may fuck you over, you know. um Respecting yourself to the point where you won't date certain people that are just absolute train wrecks, you know, because you have that savior mentality, you know. Not giving money to not giving money to broken people that will claim to pay you back, you know, but you know never will. um Respecting yourself can also be just like, you know, just like even like standing up for yourself, like let's say someone did you really dirty or something like that. Someone screwed you over in a major way. You know, someone took like 10K from you, rather than just like being a doormat. You know, and like being like, oh, whatever. You know, I can. You know, money is money. I can just make that money back. You know, like no, actually, like stand up for yourself. Fight for fight for yourself. Like if someone steps on your toes, be like, "Yo, man, you stepped on my toes." You know, like you could almost like envision like, for example, for for example, let's just say you have like a really close friend that you really like and you're really close to, and and you you basically treat that friend as if it's like your brother or your sister, you know, and you'll fight tooth and nail for that person, you know. Like if someone steps on their toes, like you're gonna be like, yo, you stepped on my boy's toes, like apologize. Or if someone scams their friend out of you know their money, or robs them in some sort of way, robs them of their dignity or their possessions or any of that shit, are you gonna tell your friend like, oh, you know, it's just money, it's just possessions, you know, you can always get those back. You can always, like, no, you're gonna do what you can to get those things back. You know, you're gonna fight. You're gonna fight for that friend. You know, and in my opinion, self love is all about treating yourself as that friend that you're gonna fight for, that you're gonna care about so much, that you're gonna love. You know, that is what self love is all about. It's just like essentially splitting yourself up into two people, you know, two clones of you, you know, and then like really if like really think about it, if like one day you woke up and you see your clone, like are you, are you gonna hate that guy? Like that guy is going through the same problems that you have, that you're going through. That guy has the same worries that you have. That guy, you know, that guy has all the same shit that you have. You know, like no, you're gonna, you know, you should be hugging the guy. You should be like, damn, bro, I know what you're going through. I know, you know, I know what's going on, and like I'm here for you, bro. You know, like it's on some shit like that. It's on some shit like that where it's not even about like, you know, it's not even about like, oh, bro, you look so good. You know, you have good hair, and all of that, and you have so much money. You know, like no, it's just about being able to look at yourself and realize that you are a person that is going through life, and you have your struggles, you have your battles, you have all this shit, and like, what would you say to a person that was going through the exact same situation? You would be compassionate with them. You would be caring about them. You would try to help them out, even though your situation is really shitty right now. You would try to like go through this journey together. Because it's like it's less lonely when you're with somebody else. So it's like, why can't you do that for yourself? You know. Um, it's something that I had to like heavily rely on the last few weeks, and especially I use that to like get closer to God as well. Like I'm not gonna get super preachy here, but like, God literally does the same thing, where it's like God treats you like basically like a friend, like one of his boys. Just like super caring, super super chill. So like, yeah, whether or not you believe in God, you can do that for yourself. You can be super caring, super chill for yourself. And what one sec. Sorry about that. I got hungry. So what that essentially does, um, what loving yourself essentially does is the thing is the thing is like, having other people love you and having other people accept you and like give you that validation is great. Like, it feels great. But 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 the issue in that being like the only source of love and validation that you get is the fact that the things that you get from other people are fleeting. Um, so let's say that you're in a relationship, and you make a mistake. You make some sort of mistake that ends up impacting the other person as well. Well, well, it's like now, because like, here's the thing. I don't believe that like another person could have unconditional love for another person. Like, it's very rare. It's very conditional. Like interpersonal relationships between people are very conditional, in my opinion. So it's like, if you mess up, if you make a mistake that ends up impacting the other person, or ends up like hurting the other person, and there's like, sorry, my dog's barking. There's like an element of that. Oh my god. Like, that person's love, like, it went from 100% to now 70%, because it's like, now there's that one annoyance, and and you know now you have to like work yourself all the way back up to 100%. Or it's like, imagine you're in a very long-term relationship. You have a wife, and you make a mistake, and now it's like, oh, all of a sudden, your wife's love for you is now 50%, whereas before it was at 100%. And you have to like continuously like like rebuild that trust, rebuild that connection. And it's like, in some cases the relationship ends up falling through either way, despite your best efforts of trying. Whereas like, when you get all that love from yourself, it's like, you can make a hundred billion mistakes, and you might never learn from them ever. But it's like, you know even though you should be learning from your mistakes, obviously, but like I'm saying in the worst case scenario, you could make like 20 separate mistakes, that impact your life in pretty significant ways. But like at the end of the day, you still accept yourself, you still love yourself. I'm hoping that you don't make 20 mistakes that like impact the trajectory of your life significantly. But you know what I'm saying? It's like you can make a couple mistakes, you can make a few mistakes here and there because humans make mistakes, and you still can find a way to like love yourself, to accept yourself, to be like, you know what, I made those mistakes, I learned from them, and like the love that you have for yourself is gonna be still 100%. Sure, it's gonna fall down. After you make a mistake, it's gonna fall down temporarily because it's like you made a mistake, you feel bad about it, but with time, whenever you make a mistake, you'll be like, oh, I made a mistake, I shouldn't have done that. But, I've learned from that. And you can bounce back really easily versus like in a relationship, you make a mistake and it takes months or even years to truly bounce back. And at any point during that journey of like bouncing back from your mistake, the other person might just be like, you know what, actually I don't want to do this anymore, I'm done, peace out, and now you're kind of like left with all this effort that you put in, and it's like, oh, now what, now you feel empty, now you feel hollow. Whereas it's like if you make your own mistake, and you're by yourself, it's like, yeah, what am I gonna do? Leave myself? Like, no, I'm stuck with myself. So I might as well just like accept myself for making these mistakes. So I might as well still love myself, still accept myself for making those mistakes, no matter how egregious those mistakes are, because it's like, what else am I gonna do? I can't just live, I can't just detach from myself, I can't just leave from myself and be with another person, like I'm stuck with myself until the day that I die. So I might as well make my internal world as peaceful as humanly possible, by accepting myself and like loving myself despite all of these mistakes. And like, yeah, other people, it's like acceptance and love is very conditional. It's very conditional based on like what you provide for their life. A lot of people don't want to admit that, and and I'm very open to being wrong about this, but I really don't think I'm wrong here. I really do think that other people's love for you is conditional, except if it's like your parents, Um, if your parents really love you, really care about you, no matter, like I've seen like I have this guy that I talk to on Discord sometimes, and he's like a super hardcore drug addict. He's fucked up like hundreds of times. Just like told his parents they're that they're Hitler, and like his parents still love him. They still care about him. They still want what's best for him. They still want they still will show up for him no matter what. They'll still help him out no matter what. They won't enable him, they won't enable his bad habits, but you know they'll still do what they can to like help and support, you know and to me, like, that is the closest thing to like an unconditional relationship that you can have with a person, is like with your family, with your parents, with the people that gave you life, besides God. Um, but all of these like relationships, to your wife, your girlfriend, even your friends, it's just not going to be the same thing. There's not going to be that same level of attachment as with a parent, or and with yourself as well, people are very attached to themselves, you know, very, very attached to themselves. That's why the majority of people are very afraid of dying, you know, is because there's like that instinctual self-preservation that people have, you know, towards themselves, you know, and that's very hard to extend to another person. Very, very hard to extend to another person, you know. And also on top of that, like imagine this is like the love that people can like give you, and this is like self-love. This is like self-love. Like no, like people can't touch this. People can't touch this. You know, it's just in a completely different league. And like at this point, like I have this problem where it's like where I'm just so pessimistic about other people, where it's like other people can come into my life, but like is anyone really gonna treat me the same way that I treat myself? Is anyone really gonna care about me the same way that I care about myself? Like no. Like no, the answer is not. Like sure, I can learn a lot from other people, and that's one of my favorite things to do is to learn about other people and to learn, you know, their lessons and how to apply that to my life. And like you can learn a lot through other people, because other people can be a mirror of like how you act and how you behave and how you process things and how you view the world, you know. But it's like on that base level of like treating yourself, you know. It's like no one can compete. No one can compete. The only person that can ever compete and like surpass that is God, you know. But like if you don't believe in God, like no one can compete. No one can compete with the way that you treat yourself. No one can compete with the way that you love yourself. Like that's my biggest problem right now is like I don't want to let anyone in anymore, you know. And it's not about like, oh, I'm protesting, you know. It's like it's not even about like the famous saying of like the fox is trying to get the grapes from the tree, and he can't reach the grapes, so he's like, screw them, the grapes were sour anyways, you know. It's not even about like a sense of like you know, like a negative sense like that. It's mostly about like no one else can treat me the same way that I treat myself. No one else can love and care about me the same way that I care about myself. You know, it's just hard. It's just really, really hard to imagine, you know. Um, it's hard to imagine that people won't care about me like from their own self interest, you know, from their own like selfish desires or something like that, you know. And and yeah, like that sucks, but it's also incredibly liberating, because it's also like I don't need anyone else to like give me that validation or give me that satisfaction, you know. It's all coming from within. It's all coming from it's all coming from like within my heart, you know. It's this like self-serving, self-growing sort of ecosystem. It's like those ecosystems in those like glass containers that people have. They just add like soil and like bugs and shit, and they seal that like container off, and it's self preserving, and you know, you don't have to water it. Like I forget what they're called, something ecosystem. It's like a self-serving ecosystem where it's like you don't need external validation. You don't need external love, external water, because it's all coming from inside. It's all just like recycling from inside, you know. And I think that's awesome, I really do think that's awesome because yeah, you just I'm very curious how like in a few months from now, um let's say if I get into a relationship again, which I probably will, but not in a few months. I don't know. But let's say I get into a relationship and it's been like a few months since I've been on this journey of like self love and self actualization, how I would operate in that relationship. It was very interesting to like imagine because I feel like I generally just would not be able to put up with anyone else's like shit, you know. And I know that may sound like selfish as fuck to say, but like I you know, I feel like on the first sign of like me feeling disrespected or like my time or my energy or anything that's disrespected, I would just go. That was straight up. I would just go. I would just go. I would leave. I would be like, you know what? It's been fun, but I respect myself and love myself too much to be subjected to this sort of treatment. You know. And that does sound like it's coming from a place of like entitlement, but at the same time, it's like it's like I deserve to have people treat me well, you know, like I deserve to have people treat me the same way that I treat myself. I don't know. It's just it's interesting. I'm gonna wrap it up here, but yeah, self love, really powerful stuff.